Welcome to the Expert Circle, the podcast where we dive deep into the minds of some of the most innovative leaders and entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Dipo Sridhartha, founder and CEO of Kriya AI. Now, for those of you who are new, our podcast is a collection of short 10-minute talks by experts. These are global leaders. So, the cool thing is we take these lightning talks and turn them into AI powered microblogs so you can easily consume these beautiful sections and key takeaways from these incredible experts. In today's episode, we're thrilled to have Lesya Hendricks. Lesya, can you tell us a little bit more about you? We're really excited to learn more about your insights, growing in this competitive landscape. Tell us more.
Thank you so much for having me, Deb. So my background is in automotive engineering. I come from some traditional OEMs like Scania in Sweden and then Tesla here in California. And then as well as I worked for self-driving companies like Neuro, helping make the future of self-driving cars and AI-empowered deliveries and rides. And it's been a wild journey, and it's really fun to see how San Francisco is getting transformed, especially with Waymo ramping up their operations. It's really exciting. So that's the engineering part of me. And then I'm also really passionate about connecting with people, mentorships, and that's what drove me to what I'm doing now, which is writing a book about AI and how it impacts job market, what jobs will be replaced first, and what people can do about it. So it's not as much gloom projection how bad everything's going to be. It's more of, okay, so what can you do about it? So that's what I'm up to right now.
That is so fascinating. I mean, what an incredible journey from like self-driving cars, like the weeds of it. And you're an engineer by trade, is that right?
Correct. I'm a mechanical
Amazing.
engineer.
Fantastic. So fascinating. So tell me a little bit more about, I mean, either in the self-driving space, obviously we know, but you pick a lane that you want us to dive into.
Yeah.
How do you envision AI influencing the landscape that you're in?
So I think the biggest part is still there are some limiting factors. For example, I think the weather is a really big one, right? So the cities that the companies that are currently having cars on the road, the cities where they operate, are pretty well known for good weather, right? So in the US, it's usually San Francisco, LA, and California. It is either Houston, Austin, or Phoenix in Texas. So basically, there is no snow or ice.
Oh,
There are no large storms. Nothing like Florida, nothing like Michigan. So the weather is very moderate, which allows for easier launch. So I think when it comes to replacement of rides, delivery vehicles, taxis, uh, in the cities and city centers, that's going to happen a lot faster. And depending on a state or country you're in, if the weather is good, it's going to happen there first, and eventually the technology will catch up. But that's sort of how it's going to grow. And the first area that's easy to replace are the cities because you can build a model of a city and how the car should behave on road and have thousands of cars operating within that model, using the same model all over again and improving it, getting more data, improving it, building new improved models, and so on. But to make it a long haul, it's really hard. So, for example, if we're talking transportation between cities, it will take a very long time to cover mapping for all these routes.
fascinating. Okay, that is super interesting. So that's kind of like the insight that I would never have unless I talk to an actual like engineer who's in the space. This is so cool. Taking a little bit of a shift in terms of your day to
Mhm.
day, right? Like in the job and like your
Yeah.
peers and so on, right?
Mhm.
How is AI impacting that line of work?
Sorry, how is AI? Can you repeat the
Impacting
question?
kind of your line of work as an engineer, as a mechanical engineer in your space, working in this.
Mhm.
Are there things that are happening day
So,
to day in your company and processes where you guys have embraced AI outside of the product itself?
Mm-hmm. Um, I would say efficiency, right? So for the software engineering teams, the efficiency of coding um, has increased a lot. Uh, some productivity tools, but I would say the biggest shift is still happening on the product side.
That's
And that, like, as computing power gets stronger, the models get more complex. It's sort of like one pulls the other upwards. So
yeah.
it's a circle.
Interesting, interesting. And so tell me something more specifically, more on like the operational side, like what are some like actual benefits, like tangible benefits you're seeing that, your consumers and so on are able to see on a day-to-day basis?
For self-driving cars, yeah.
Yeah. And more like nuanced, right? Like of course we know what the benefits are, but like, you're in the weeds of it. What are some cool benefits you see that maybe we as layman don't see?
So every car ride that is done by autonomous vehicle is always a learning opportunity, right? So it's data collection, which it helps to build more complex models and improve the models that we have. And then obviously the benefits for riders are enormous. Where I
Yeah.
actually took a ride with Waymo yesterday, last night, which is great. I get to choose music. I don't need to talk to anyone. I don't need to tip anyone. The car drives really safely. And also, as a dog owner, I'm really impacted by this every day as I walk my
Mhm.
dog. If it's a Waymo car, I'm not afraid to cross the street. I am confident that it will stop, and the reaction time is much faster than a human reaction. So I feel more confident that an autonomous driven car is going to obey the rules, not run the red light, that there are some moral and regulatory implications woven into their product that is really trustworthy. So I think that's really interesting to see how people are embracing that. And yeah, it's really fascinating how that's changing.
You articulated it so well. Like I was thinking about like a handful of benefits, but there are just so many that you don't realize aside from it's just the
Yeah.
self-driving. There's so much about
Mhm.
the efficacy and the ethical nature of how these algorithms have been programmed. It's fantastic. Amazing. So, well, AI is powerful, but it's not without its challenges, right? What are some
Absolutely.
like common like cautions or pitfalls or limitations you feel like people should be mindful of in this world?
I think AI is going to really pose a big question on what kind of leader you are for most of the leaders in this space, as it will create more efficient ways to work. It will also create questions like, do I keep two engineers making X amount of money? They're so efficient that they only need to work 20 hours. Or do I replace them with one engineer that I pay 1.5x, right? So it's a moral question now that everything happens faster and more efficient. Do we choose the profit? Do we choose the people? And maybe I think some leaders are going to be in a very tough position where maybe they, as individuals, want to do the right thing and choose the people and maybe provide a line of regulation for their company where there is certain job protection, but venture capital or investment banking, whoever is backing them, they may not like it. The board may not vote on that. So it's a very complicated issue. I think that leaders should start talking about this early to ease in minds of investors that this is something that's coming, that we will need to redefine what work looks like, and definitely redefine 40-hour weeks. But I think the biggest pitfall are is for people who are not using AI today. So that's unfortunately the people who will be impacted the most. Those professions will be automated first,
Yeah.
and it will be harder to find a new job not using AI. So for anyone who is an Uber driver today, I would start learning some of the tools, right? So even like you can start small. Start using ChatGPT daily. It doesn't have to be big, but it is really important to excuse me, it is really important to navigate the change and to think what professions are here to stay and what professions are here to go. And a driver is certainly one of the first one to be replaced by the self-driving revolution. So it's good to have a plan. It's good to maybe focus towards something more connected with people. So anything healthcare, demographically, we're going to have an older population. Anything elder care, those are like good directions to go. Where contact is not so easy to replace. That's a really safe bet for people.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I mean, I was my last question was going to be what's kind of your advice for those who are, still like curious about AI and not yet AI forward as you were thinking. And I think you
Mhm.
summarized it well. If you were to just call out some specific trends again to keep an eye on, what would those be?
So I would say not be afraid of automation, embrace it. Um, I think it's easy to oppose and be scared and think of like immediate replacement, but any machine needs maintenance. So if you're on the front line of embracing the change and you come with a positive attitude where, hey, let me learn more about this technology, I want to help, right? Uh, that it will increase people's chances to actually keep their jobs, right? And I think teachers have a really important role to play in this as they need to start teaching using AI. Uh,
Totally.
right? A lot of schools prohibit any use of ChatGPT for homework.
For
So that
obvious reasons for now, yeah.
for obvious reasons, but if you think about how much we use ChatGPT or similar models, right? So for example, you need to write an email or come up with a proposal. I use it as an assistant all the time, where like I just feed all my thoughts during the day, and at the end of the day, I either ask to summarize or to create something. It's such a great assistant. So if kids today don't learn that and try to look for a job in the next 5 years, it's gonna be really tough.
Totally.
Um,
Couldn't
yeah.
agree more. Yeah. Well, wonderful. And thank you so much for this incredible insight. I wasn't even sure how much we could cover in 10, 12 minutes, and it's been eye-opening. It's been a pleasure really learning from your perspectives. So before we wrap up, I again wanted to reiterate, we are not without our AI teammates here. So one of the cool things we'll be doing is we'll be taking this transcript and feeding it into Kriya AI to turn it into a thought leader microblog. So in seconds, actually. So this is exactly what we do at Kriya. We make it easier to repurpose awesome, rich content so people can, consume it in bites and be able to spark interest. Thank you again
Amazing.
for joining us, Lesya, and to our listeners, stay tuned for more inspiring expert talks in our series. See you next time.
Thanks, Deb.